Well, the US president says he's working on a strong response to China's planned national security law in Hong Kong. His threat has prompted this reaction from the Chinese Foreign Ministry.
The national security legislation for Hong Kong is purely China's internal affair that allows no foreign interference. China is determined in opposing external interference in Hong Kong's affairs. If anyone insists on harming China's interests, China is determined to take all necessary countermeasures.
Benedict Rogers is co-founder and chairman of Hong Kong Watch, and he's joining us by Skype from London. Thanks very much indeed for giving us your time. What are the chances, sir, do you think, that we're seeing the end of the pro-democracy movement in Hong Kong?
I don't think we're seeing the end of the pro-democracy movement. The movement, I think, is absolutely as determined as ever, particularly to try to not have this security law imposed on them. They're not just going to roll over. But we are certainly seeing the end of Hong Kong's autonomy of one country, two systems and its basic freedoms.
How do you think that the existing government of Hong Kong under Carrie Lam can continue, given that the amount of antipathy that appears to be towards this ruling that is coming from Beijing?
Well, Carrie Lam's government has been extremely unpopular, particularly over the course of the last year with its handling of the extradition bill and now these new developments. They will continue for as long as Beijing keeps them there, because they're effectively, Carrie Lam is Beijing's puppet and Beijing's representative in Hong Kong rather than Hong Kong's leader and representative to Beijing. But she certainly doesn't have the support of the people.
Given the fact that the protests that we saw in the latter part of last year caused a great deal of damage, and also the protesters have been accused of undermining confidence in Hong Kong's economy, and meetings of the Legislative Council have been continually disrupted. To what extent do you think the protesters themselves bear some sort of responsibility for the severity of the response that China is giving now?
I think overall the weight of responsibility lies on Carrie Lam and on the central government in Beijing. They have promises that they should uphold under the terms of the Sino-British Joint Declaration and the basic law, Hong Kong's constitution, including a promise, albeit in vaguely worded terms, to introduce universal suffrage at some stage. So the responsibility is theirs, and they have introduced at various times laws and measures that have been extremely repressive and have absolutely provoked the fury of the people. Of course, there have been a small minority, and I emphasize small minority, of protesters who have resorted to violent and extreme action, and I don't condone that action, and I think Hong Kongers are at their best when they protest peacefully. But we should remember that those incidents of violence have mostly been in response to police brutality. It's usually been the police that has acted first. And of course, in response to out of frustration at a government that just does not listen to the people.
Hong Kong's economy, of course, like so many other economies, is dependent on investor confidence. Looking ahead, how much damage do you think this is going to do to Hong Kong's economy? And will it ever come back to the stage that it has been a year or so ago?
I think it's going to do huge damage, and particularly if this law, the security law, does go ahead, which, as I say, really destroys what's left of Hong Kong's freedoms and autonomy. It will really call into question Hong Kong's viability as an international financial hub. Hong Kong's success as a financial center depends on the foundations that uphold that of the rule of law, transparency, openness, and autonomy. We published a report earlier this year called Why Hong Kong Matters, and it shows that Hong Kong does still matter a lot to the international community and indeed to China, financially and economically. But it will only continue in that way if the values of rule of law and openness, transparency, and autonomy are upheld. And as it looks like they're being dismantled, I think Hong Kong's days as a financial center are now in question.
We really appreciate you giving us the benefits of your thoughts on this. Benedict Rogers from Hong Kong Watch, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.